couple of years ago, some friends of ours invited us to come down to Florida. They've got a condo down there, and so we went down and spent a week down there. I may tell you more stories about that trip as time goes on here, because we had a great trip. I went to a NASCAR race in Miami Homestead. We went to NASA and the Kennedy Space Center. It was great. But one day we rode some bikes up from Cocoa Beach, where they lived, up to Cape Canaveral to the port, so we could see the big port and all the ships and the cruise ships and everything. And it was a really nice little day. The one thing I remember from that, though, or one thing specifically, is that my friend Doug pointed out to the ocean and said, "Look out there." So I looked out, and here was this dredging crew out there, and they had this big dredge, and what they were doing was they were pulling silt off the bottom of the ocean and putting it on a barge, and then they would pull the barge out into the middle of the sea, or a ways from the land anyway, and they'd dump all this silt into the ocean. And the idea was, Doug said, that they do that all the time. If they weren't constantly dredging the port, it would silt up and be useless. And so all the time, constantly, they're dredging out the port. I'm wondering if we've got to the point where you need to start dredging out the port. Here's what I mean. This being at home thing has been fun. It's been kind of weird. For the first few days, it was sort of novel and just sort of interesting. It hadn't happened before. We were all kind of like shocked or whatever. And it was sort of fun working from home for a few days, having your kids around. But lately, last day or two, as I've talked to people, I've heard people be just a little bit more snarky than they were the day before. I've heard people being a little bit more upset. I've heard people being a little more impatient. And I wonder if it's time for us to dredge the port. Here's what I'm saying. That if we don't make a conscious effort to focus on things that are good and positive, we will be inundated with the negative. And the negative will fill up our port, and we will lose other things that are worthwhile and good. We need to dredge the port. We need to make sure that we keep good things coming in. A phrase I heard a while ago said, "Don't lose what you have to what you've already lost." I like that idea. Don't lose what you have to what you've already lost. There are some things we've lost, and if you're going through hard times right now, I'm not denying that. I'm not saying put your head in the sand. I'm not saying none of that matters. Lots of people are going through hard times, and lots of people have lots of worries. Those worries are real. Those things are actual. But don't lose the good you have to those worries. Deal with your worries, dredge them out, pull them out, deal with them, and then get on with enjoying what you still have. That's hard to do, but it's what we've got to do, or we're going to lose everything else. In Scripture, the Apostle Paul reminds us that we get a choice of what we think about. Even in hard times, we get a choice of what we think about. And so he wrote to the Philippian church and said this: "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if there's anything excellent or praiseworthy, think about those things." Can we make an effort to think about something that's lovely or true or pure or praiseworthy? Your default is going to be to dwell on the negative. Can we make a choice to dwell on better things? Don't lose what you have to what you've already lost.